When Donald Trump set his sights on Harley Davidson, it was as though he had chosen to arm wrestle an American icon. Harley Davidson wasn't just another motorcycle manufacturer, it was a cultural emblem, a symbol of rebellion and freedom wrapped in the rumble of a V-twin engine. To many, the company represented the spirit of the open road, a piece of Americana etched into highways across the country. But for Trump, it became a lightning rod in his ongoing narrative about trade, loyalty, and American industry. What followed was a clash of egos and ideologies, so thunderous it could have drowned out even the loudest Harley. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. The backdrop for this showdown was the escalating trade war Trump had ignited, particularly with tariffs targeting steel and aluminum. In retaliation, the European Union imposed its own duties, striking directly at Harley Davidson's exports. The motorcycles that once symbolized freedom suddenly became more expensive for European buyers, and Harley Davidson faced a difficult decision: to sidestep the tariffs and maintain their foothold in the European market. Harley Davidson announced plans to ship some production overseas. For the company, it was a pragmatic move, but for Trump, it was tantamount to betrayal. Trump's response was swift and public, delivered in his signature style, a barrage of tweets. He accused Harley Davidson of waving the white flag, abandoning America, and turning its back on its loyal customer base. His tone wasn't one of concern or negotiation, but sheer indignation, laced with a flair for theatrics. He proclaimed that Harley Davidson, once a proud American brand, was now deserting the very country that had made it successful. Trump had effectively declared war on Harley Davidson, not with tariffs or sanctions, but with words and tweets sharp enough to leave skid marks. Harley Davidson's leadership found themselves in an unenviable position. They weren't dealing with a quiet corporate dispute. They were at the center of a political storm, with Trump as the loudest voice in the room. His statements framed the company as disloyal, painting their overseas production move as an affront to American workers. But for Harley, the choice was simple arithmetic. By producing motorcycles in markets like Thailand, they could avoid tariffs and keep their bikes competitively priced. The irony was bitter. The same policies Trump championed to protect American manufacturing had pushed Harley to look abroad. Trump's tactics weren't limited to Twitter. He brought Harley Davidson into his speeches, using the company as an example of what he claimed was wrong with corporate America. His rhetoric was blunt and relentless, hammering home the message that Harley Davidson had betrayed the very people who bought its bikes. It was classic Trump, reducing a complex economic decision into a clear-cut moral battle. Yet, while his approach was dramatic, it resonated with many of his supporters, who saw Harley Davidson's decision as emblematic of broader frustrations with globalization. The fallout was immediate and multifaceted. Harley Davidson's stock took a hit, reflecting uncertainty not only about its future profitability, but also its standing with American consumers. Social media was awash with heated debates, with some riders vowing never to buy a Harley again. In biker bars and on online forums, the talk shifted from chrome and horsepower to loyalty and patriotism. Harley Davidson found itself caught between two opposing forces: a global market that demanded adaptation and a domestic audience inflamed by Trump's rhetoric. What made the situation even more surreal was the cultural clash at its heart. On one side was Harley Davidson, a brand built on counterculture and rebellion, now finding itself cast as a corporate villain. On the other was Trump, a president who had managed to position himself as a champion of the working class despite his gold-plated lifestyle. The juxtaposition was almost absurd. Trump, with his jet-set image, railing against Harley Davidson, the embodiment of leather-clad, rough-and-tumble Americana. For all the drama, there was a strange humor in Trump's methods. He wielded his Twitter account like a blowtorch, singing Harley Davidson's image one post at a time. His indignation was almost theatrical, the kind of over-the-top outrage that could leave you chuckling even as you winced. It wasn't just what he said but how he said it, peppered with exclamation points and the kind of language that felt less like a press release and more like a Barham rant. Trump wasn't just criticizing Harley. He was performing, and the world was his audience. Yet beneath the spectacle lay real implications for Harley Davidson. The company's leadership had to grapple with a dilemma that felt impossible to resolve. Doubling down on American production would mean higher costs and losing ground in overseas markets. But persisting with their plan risked alienating their core customers at home. Every decision seemed to carry consequences that could reverberate for years. For Harley enthusiasts, the controversy felt personal. These weren't just bikes. They were extensions of identity, expressions of freedom and individuality. To see the brand caught in a political maelstrom felt jarring, almost like watching an old friend dragged into a fight they didn't start. For some, Trump's criticism hit home, stirring feelings of betrayal. For others, it felt like an overreach, a case of politics trampling on personal choice. The divide wasn't just between Trump and Harley, but among the riders themselves, splitting a community bound by a shared love of the open road. In the end, the clash between Trump and Harley Davidson wasn't just about tariffs or production lines. It was a collision of symbols. Trump as the self-proclaimed defender of American jobs, Harley as a bastion of cultural identity. Both were larger than life, and their feud felt almost Shakespearean in its drama. There was no middle ground, no easy resolution, only a sense of inevitability as the conflict unfolded. For Trump, the fight was another chapter in his broader narrative about making America great again. For Harley Davidson, it was a stark reminder of the precarious balance between tradition and change. The company had long walked a fine line, blending nostalgia with innovation, and now that balance was being tested like never before. The roar of their engines had always been a rallying cry, but now it carried a new undertone, one of defiance, not just against the open road, but against the shifting sands of politics and perception. As the dust settled, one thing was clear. This was a story that would be retold for years, a modern parable of loyalty and economics, of egos and industries colliding. For better or worse, Trump had left his mark on Harley Davidson, reshaping its narrative in a way that no marketing campaign ever could. Whether you saw it as a cautionary tale or a call to action, it was impossible to ignore, much like the roar of a Harley speeding down an empty stretch of highway. The clash between Trump and Harley Davidson was more than a headline-grabbing feud. It exposed the fragile intersection of culture, business, and politics in a hyper-connected world. Harley wasn't just a company. It was an identity woven into the fabric of American mythos. Trump, in his boisterous style, amplified the stakes, framing the debate as a battle for American loyalty. His approach may have been abrasive, but it tapped into the frustration of workers and consumers who felt left behind in the shuffle of globalization. For Harley Davidson, the ordeal was a brutal awakening to the power of perception. No amount of legacy or engineering could shield them from the tidal wave of political scrutiny. The rumble of their engines, once synonymous with freedom, now carried an unintended echo of division. It was a reminder that even icons can stumble when the ground beneath them begins to shift. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.